Welcome to the Vernon Sports Show. I'm your host, Jacob Verdon. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Settle in. We'll talk some LSU football news, give you a brief preview of the season, talk about some of the toughest SEC teams you could be facing. We got a bunch of intel on spring games, on SEC teams, top teams in college football, who you should be looking out for, and what the word is on the SEC streets. Without further ado, hit the like button, comment, any questions, concerns, anything you want to chime in on. We'll pop you up throughout the stream. Let's get right into it. So LSU's got an interesting season ahead. Obviously, week one's going to start with pretty much one of the toughest tests you got all year. And I don't know what it is about LSU in week one and being one of the toughest games you could schedule, but they did it again. They got it for 2 years. You're going to play Clemson right now. And keep in mind, next year, you open with them in Tiger Stadium. You're doing a home and away swap with the other Tigers. But this is going to be some of the best quarterbacks matching up in college football. I'll even go as far as to say this could potentially be the number one and number two quarterback draft prospects in the next quarterback draft class. Obviously, Clemson ACC champs returning some very key pieces. They've seen some success. Let's keep in mind here, it's not that long ago that we were competing with them in a national championship. Their success and our success is about just as equidistant to each other. We're both in a position of, trying to grow, give back. I feel like are a little bit ahead of us with the conference championship, but naturally you're in a tougher conference. And you just got to keep in mind, both teams are looking to reignite the fire. That's what I'm trying to point out here. You're walking into their turf. They're claiming it's Death Valley. You're holding it a little close to your heart, trying to go ahead and right your wrongs of opening the season with an L. Every year through Ryan Kelly, a couple of years to end Coach Orgeron's tenure. It's been like 5 years in a row. Break this streak. Hopefully, LSU can fix that. That's going to be really the biggest game, I think, that controls the narrative for LSU season. You lose that game, everybody thinks you're the same team. Everybody writes you off. Everybody thinks you're going to get pushed out of the playoff conversation. You win that game, nobody really knows what your true ceiling is, and that's when the murmurs and the rumblings are going to start. That's when LSU is going to look like a contender, potentially. It can happen quick, but you cannot give the first one up. I really do think that could potentially be your toughest game, just situationally speaking, because of the situation you're in. You really don't know much about your team. You got to go on the road against a tougher opponent, quite frankly. It'll be interesting to see. My biggest worry, if I had to say for this game, I want to see how that offensive line looks together. This is obviously going to be the first time they're all starting with this unit. Yeah, they're getting chemistry and building the connection and the flow throughout spring and hopefully throughout fall, but that's going to be the theme, I think, is how were they able to protect Nussmeier / get that offense going. Second toughest game, we're going to keep it a little bit of a theme here. It's another road game, Ole Miss. Nobody's going to forget that overtime thriller. Obviously, I got everybody hyped that was in Louisiana or LSU fans across the country. But if you were an Ole Miss fan or if you were in Mississippi or if you were anywhere else that wasn't pretty much the boot, I don't think you were as excited about that end result. LSU doesn't get a single lead in that entire game until the end, sneak away with it. And that's 2 times that Ole Miss came into Tiger Stadium ranked higher in a situation where, quite frankly, a lot of people thought that Ole Miss would win, and they didn't. They're still on an upward crescendo. I'm going to give Lane Kiffin some credit. We'll talk about them and their spring preview and all, and I'm going to give him some more flowers there because I do like Lane Kiffin. I feel like what he's doing, it's unique, it's new, it's a calculated approach. I feel like that's kind of how they've seen the success that they've had, right? They were close to playoff contention. Obviously, you lose one big game in the end, and you're going to shoot yourself in the foot, but I think the Rebels got more steam and really more success recently than LSU. I'll say that. They've been putting it together here. New faces for them, obviously, though. They're going to have a new quarterback. They're going to have some new wide receivers, new corners. That's a gamble. You got a lot of young people in this situation. So, I mean, LSU could have the upper hand. LSU's had the upper hand 2 of the last 3 times. Really could have won that third game when they were on the road 2 years ago, but we won't even talk about that. We won't even dive into that. This could be one of the in terms of the toughest games you got, all your road games, all your big SEC rivalry matchups, this could be the one that I see them getting the most. The next 2, I'm a little worried about. Let's talk about Alabama. Obviously, everybody knows about that series. Everybody understands the unfortunate situation that happens when LSU plays Alabama. Let's take a deep dive into the series history, the records, all the little next-gen stats, if you will, in road games in the Alabama-LSU series. The last 9 in Tuscaloosa, LSU's 3-6. Altogether, You want to know what the record is in Baton Rouge? You're thinking, all right, maybe the home team's got the advantage. In Baton Rouge, LSU is 30, 10, and 2. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. Alabama has 100% stepped on LSU. And I'm worried every single year when you get to that game, when you circle that first Saturday in November, that it's going to happen again. Obviously, now they have an X factor. They got Ryan Williams. They don't have Jalen Milroe, but Ryan's Mr. Unguardable. You got a chance anytime you have an athlete like that. Anytime you can get a touchdown in a blink of an eye, a one-play drive, that gives you an advantage. You don't have to do much. You don't have to plan much. And there's really not anything a defensive coordinator can do to scheme that player out. And they've got a lot of other options that you've seen through spring. So if you want to put all your attention on Ryan Williams, good luck. Because they're going to have a lot of other names to be able to feed. Obviously, last year, Bama wasn't too kind. I always expect tough battles. I feel like this game could be, it's always kind of close. It don't matter what the records are. It's real similar to an Iron Bowl or an Egg Bowl, whatever the hell these SEC rivalries. Pick one. It's very similar to it because I feel like you get the most bang for your buck. You get everybody pissed off. You get everybody emotional. Whenever that happens, it's when shit really hits the fan. I ain't gonna lie. I'm worried LSU drops this one, though. Through the first 3 games I've told y'all, Clemson, Ole Miss, Bama, this is the one I'm least confident in. And naturally, because of the way that the records have gone historically. Let's change it up a little bit. I gave you 3 road games, and it makes sense. Your road games normally your toughest games. I got one that might throw y'all off a little bit. This is a home game. It'll be in Death Valley, in Tiger Stadium, Baton Rouge, toward the end of the year. You're going to know what you're made of by this point. You're going to know if there is a gut check time for the Tigers when they're going to a potential playoff run, it'll be right here whenever they play South Carolina. Now, I know home game, not supposed to be a worry. There's a little bit of a different element to this. South Carolina, they're plotting. They are plotting. I think revenge is on their mind. That game, quite frankly, in my opinion, is the only game that kept South Carolina out of the college football playoff. There's a lot of people that deserved a spot. A lot of people argued that they should have got a spot. Ole Miss. I'm going to throw South Carolina in that mix, though. They ruined their season last year with that Week 3 L. Obviously, could have been a playoff team, derailed by the number of losses they got. One less penalty, honestly, and you're in an entirely different situation. The Gamecocks are dancing. Here's something that I want to talk about. Lastly, this is why this game's going to worry me. And quite frankly, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is why I think LSU could lose this game. Lenoris Sellers. That's the X factor. Lenoris Sellers. Could be one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the nation. You got to keep him healthy. If you keep him healthy and he's on the field in Death Valley, that's one of the toughest things LSU's had to guard through recent memory. A mobile quarterback. Just about any time I watch LSU try to put a spy on someone or keep someone hemmed in a pocket or just put some pressure, it hadn't really worked. Obviously, I'm going to have some faith this time, but I think South Carolina will be a big test, obviously. They're on the way up, too. We want to talk about Clemson and Shane Beamer, or Clemson and Dabo Swinney being close to LSU. Shane Beamer and South Carolina really close as well. They're both on the way up, building, trying to be some of the top SEC teams. And I think this can even go into the next segment. I wanted to talk about the top SEC rivalries to watch. Let's just relay this together. I think LSU and South Carolina, let South Carolina come into Baton Rouge and beat LSU. And they have back-to-back years of the road team coming in and stomping something. That's a new rivalry that you want yearly. That's my opinion. This is 2 teams that I think are on the way up. If South Carolina comes in and gets revenge, this is a matchup you want every single year. I would say mark it in, coach. I ain't going to lie. Lenoris Sellers, he's going to be a monster. He's going to be here for a little while, too. So if this becomes something that you see and you get accustomed to, and he does have a Superman moment, I'd be worried about it happening again. But, yeah, I think there could be some hatred brewing here. Let's talk about some more SEC rivalries or big games, at least, to watch for next year, some narratives. I'm going to put one up in the air. This one ain't too, hard to figure out, but I'm going to say Ole Miss and Georgia. I think that'll be one of my more interesting moments. The Rebels obviously beat the Bulldogs last year, and this is my thing. If Ole Miss wants to show that they're for real, a top threat, a potential champion, you got to come in and do it again. This is an entirely different situation. You're going on the road, and now I feel like if you win again, now you really flex muscle. Now you really show yourself as a top contender. Now you're taking off the top squads, the top seeds, the top dogs, the top perennial powerhouses that have been running the SEC for quite some time. It's also an interesting matchup, too. You got the offense versus defense mind. Lane Kiffin, probably one of your best offensive minds. Kirby Smart, obviously, been really, really creative and really, really successful at building a defensive culture and just defensive prowess at Georgia. But Lane Kiffin, it's interesting just getting to hear him talk about his scheme and just everything that he's implementing in Ole Miss. Like I said, we'll get to that in the spring game notes. I don't want to give away too much yet, but Ole Miss is an interesting squad. Not necessarily a sleeper because I feel like a lot of people are potentially thinking that they can make some noise, but I feel like they're on the cusp. It's going to be either or type deal. This Georgia game is going to control a lot of it, though. It's one of those moments I feel like it's just the challenger and the champ. It's the person that's been on the top for a while and the person that's trying to get there. One person's a little hungrier. Let's see how they're going to be able to do it. Another thing I want to point out here. So this is an interesting connection that you can make with Lane Kiffin, with Ole Miss. You can throw South Carolina in this bucket as well. A couple of other teams as well. Either way, this team feels as if they were robbed of an opportunity to show how good they were last year in the college football playoff. They feel like they were one of the best teams. Didn't get a chance to show it. Would have been able to slide in on a later seed. A lot of people are wondering, later seeds, it don't even matter. Like, it don't matter who you put in at the end. Just get the top 5 right, and then the last 7 seeds are going to be murked. That's wrong. Completely wrong. Last year, your national champions were the 8 seed. Ohio State got in, drew a horrible gauntlet. Horrible. I'm pretty sure they had to beat Tennessee, Notre Dame, Texas, all kind of crap. All right, it was rough. It was a rough draw. Whatever it went, I think it was Oregon actually. It was Tennessee, Oregon, and Texas. Whatever the case may be, disgusting draw. They got it done. They were able to get the opportunity, and week after week, everybody was like, "Oh my God, that's the Ohio State that I think could actually hold the trophy." Despite losing to Michigan, despite all the question marks about Ryan Day, despite whatever you want to say was their kryptonite, it worked. It happened, and Lane Kiffin feels like that could have been the Rebels, season. That could have been them, an 8 seed getting into this opportunity into the college football playoff to be able to win a championship. Now I feel like that gives just about anybody a chance. And I'm not saying that Ohio State wasn't a great team. They're a great team, great university, recruiting, portaling, whatever you want to say. They cover every single base. However, they didn't exactly finish the job in the regular season. Shit, they lost their most important game. They lost their most important one that anybody really would have said, we need this one more than anyone. They still got in, still was able to right their wrongs. It's going to be interesting to watch how this translates this year. I think if Ole Miss really is that pissed off and has sat back and watched all of this happen and felt like that could have been them, this year they're going to potentially turn that into some inspiration to motivate them, to get them to the promised land. But I mean, hey, easier said than done. Let's keep Georgia in this mix. I think Georgia and Texas, that could be potentially one of the biggest SEC matchups. Obviously, rematch of the SEC title game. I feel like Texas jumped in and instantaneously found a way to be successful in the SEC. It was like microwave success. First year coming in, cutting the line, just, we're here. My name's Sark. How you doing? Move out the way. I'm in Atlanta. I'm trying to host a trophy up. Keep in mind, last year, despite all the success, the 11 wins, Texas coming in and just murking everybody. The only team to beat Texas was Georgia. And they beat them twice. Beat them in the regular season, beat them in the SEC title game. It's going to be something that I think is in the back of their mind as well. Georgia's going to welcome them to their SEC environment. They're coming between the hedges. It'll be loud. It'll be rambunctious. Yeah, Texas has a nice environment, but this is one of the biggest SEC environments that has been successful. Now it's going to be very interesting. Late in the season, major playoff implications. I think this will set the stage for the SEC title game. And I wouldn't even be surprised if you see another rematch again, if they play each other in the SEC title game. This is the new Alabama. Hot take. Georgia's still Georgia. Texas came in and slid right into that spot that Alabama left wide open. And these are the two teams that I think will be swinging, your two heavyweights at least, battling it out. If they don't knock the shit out of each other first, they'll probably play again for the title. That's just my take on it. SEC's getting interested now. We'll talk about some spring game notes and footage real quick. Let's talk about this transfer portal, though. I wanted to briefly touch on this. Obviously, Nico officially confirmed to UCLA. We talked about it a little bit last week. It's an interesting spot. Obviously, going back home, West Coast, the negotiation side of things. Everybody has been talking about the team and just all the wrong decisions being made. It's hard to disagree. When you go to a situation where you're cutting your check in half because you think you're about to double it, it just shows the true value and the situation that you potentially put yourself in. But I want to have a conversation, right? Let's talk about Oklahoma freshmen. They had their freshman D lineman get in the portal. And then he comes back. He says, the grass wasn't greener. Now, there's a lot of things that could have happened. He could have found zero. He could have just been like, I made the wrong decision. I slept on it. I changed my mind. But I do want to open the room for discussion on if this is similar to the Nico Amalev situation. Because theoretically, the Oklahoma defensive lineman is not happy with his situation, leaves, and then they woo him back. I'm going to go out on a limb, not confirmed, just speculative. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Oklahoma probably had to up that ante and give him a little bit more bread. And this isn't specifically a holdout. He wasn't not going to practice, so it wasn't as drastic. But I'm just saying, this is a similar situation that could eventually create the problem everybody was thinking the Nico situation would create. If Nico pulling out and saying, hey, give me more bread or I'm done is going to piss a lot of people off, then I think this Oklahoma D lineman situation could piss a lot of people off as well. Early stages of college football, you got to run through the kinks to be able to make it a refined process. You got to screw up. You gotta fail to learn, right? But college football might run to a point where they're failing here pretty soon. And I mean, shout out to them getting the bread. I ain't hating. If I had the opportunity to enter the transfer portal to get bread, I'll probably do it. You'll probably do it. Your mother would probably do it. Her mother would probably do it. It's easy. It's an easy decision to make to get an instant, reward, instant gratification. No, sitting and waiting. It's just right here, right now. So I get it, but going to be some interesting changes here that I think follow suit as well. Let's talk about the Tennessee situation now. What are they going to do with their quarterback? They tried to make a move. This is also the rumor mill, so I'm not going to say that this is confirmed, but Tennessee allegedly offered Josh Hoover, the TCU quarterback, $1 million more than he's currently getting paid to leave. Why is Josh Hoover such a sought-after candidate, though? It seems like a left field topic for a lot of people who don't know the statistic behind it. The only other quarterback to throw for more passing yards last season than Josh Hoover was Garrett Nussmeier. Shout out Nussbus. But Josh Hoover, I feel like, was in a situation where he could potentially turn over Tennessee's, vibe, because they go from being a playoff contender, they get waxed, and obviously injuries and all kind of things played into that. I think Tennessee was a better team than what they showed up on the field in Columbus last year, but that's besides the point. You got all kind of opinions around the team, the university, the overall, Josh Heupel Express. You got Peyton Manning saying he's liking what he's seeing. You got all kind of support and approval, and then boom, all of a sudden your top franchise piece, if you will, is out of there, coach. How are they going to be able to address it? Let's talk about it. Spring reports, we got some intel here. Let's talk about Tennessee. Obviously, the vibe is gross. Everybody's blindsided. Everybody's upset. Everybody's heartbroken. And naturally, I can understand it. Great season. Looked to be one of the more solid teams in the SEC. And then you wake up one morning and boom, your quarterback says, I'm done. I don't like you. The odds of the SEC title in terms of sports books, they slid. Because Tennessee was like the fourth highest SEC team with the odds. Now they slid some books. They got them outside the top 5. They're teetering on the edge of it. LSU even overtook them in some aspects. Very interesting to watch because you had most of your normal question marks answered, right? You had most of the problems, most of the common issues answered in terms of depth, in terms of scheme, in terms of culture issues. You had everything crossed off. And then the biggest question mark that any team could have happens. Quarterback issues, no quarterback, no starter, no QB1, a lot of young guys, and another decision or another battle or competition to have had through this summer, another distraction, if you will. That is detrimental to the team. Now, obviously, biggest issue, finding a replacement at quarterback with not much time left. And not just not much time left, but you've already wasted a whole spring period. Your spring game done, all 15 or 18 or however many practices you were able to get out, done. Now you're in a situation where I think you're really worrying. Not going to lie. Look, could be tough, especially in a few months span to teach a quarterback. I think Josh Heupel could do it. His scheme, obviously very quarterback friendly. He's been able to have a lot of success with passers that I don't think a lot of people would have gave a chance to. Hendon Hooker, Joe Milton, Nico, and now I feel like he'll find a decent spot. Keep in mind, Josh Heupel was a damn good quarterback himself. So you're not just learning from a coach who's just teaching you things out of a book. This guy has been around the block, played football at Oklahoma, has some records over there. It's not going to be the end of the world. Will it be a question mark or a concerning issue for the Volunteers? Of course, without a shadow of a doubt. But I don't think it's the Achilles heel that'll just murk them. They could figure it out. It could not be, as horrible. Let's talk about Texas real quick. Riding off their high, their debut into the SEC, yada, yada, yada. They're probably one of the top contenders, all right? Yeah. Everybody wants to know, how does Arch Manning respond? You got a damn good test in week 1. You're going to go in, play the national champions. No week 0, just first game, straight out, rip it open raw. And it'll be an interesting welcome to the SEC moment. Yeah, he started before, but this is the moment where it's your team. It's your offense. When you're starting as a backup, you just got that feeling in the back of your head that it's not forever. It's not permanent. And then you also are pressured to not screw up. Now Arch can be as comfortable as Arch can be. And he's looked successful through the times that you've seen him on the field last year. But now I feel like it'll be interesting, right? A lot of pressure, a lot of attention, and then a big opponent in Ohio State. And I think that first week could shock a lot of people. Even if he has a rough week 1 against Ohio State, he could still turn it around throughout the season, I think. But huge threat to open it up for sure. Texas returned a lot of defensive pieces. Sarkisian's praising the DB room despite losing 2 starters to the league. Texas is in a spot where they're going to show off that collective, where they're going to show off all the work that they've been doing, all the recruiting, all the portaling, all these little things that you've been worrying about. This is when it's going to come to light, come to fruition, quite frankly. I think Texas, through their spring period, with at least what they've shown, they're one of the top dogs. Georgia, also another one of the big ones. They're the SEC champs, and I don't think they're going to be happy with the way that season ended. I'm not going to lie. A lot of things change. You lose Carson Beck in the portal, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is Kirby Smart's first uncertain season since his 3-year run in the college football playoff. He's had 3 straight playoff bids, and this is the first time in this span where you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if Gunnar can run it out, but it'll be interesting. Gunnar Stockton, their quarterback 1. I want to see that transition because they've been at the top for a while, right? And then naturally with transfer portal, with NIL, with all these things that get added into the college game, it's harder to keep players on your team. It's harder to keep the second string squad together. It's hard to keep the backups on the damn squad, not to mention the third, fourth strings, all this stuff. Either way, what I'm saying is Georgia, their championship culture, all of those pieces have either portaled or been drafted. And they got a couple of remnants. It's not all gone, but it's in a spot now where there could be a changing of guard. Georgia's a great team, great program, great resources, has a great system. Kirby Smart, also probably the best coach in college football. It'll be interesting to watch them figure this year out because, like I said, this could be the growing pain year through the last few. You've been lucky. You had 2 in a row. You almost got 3. Now I think the change in the guard moment happens, but obviously keep a close eye on that. Ole Miss, they had a weird spring game. I don't know if you saw, had a weird little short field. I think it was like a 20-yard field. It was like 10, 20, 30, 20, 10. That's how they did it, like 50 yards altogether. Either way, Lane Kiffin, it could be smart. He's an offensive genius. I'm sure he's putting them in just situational drills, trying to get them in red zone offense and just get the best look at his squad without having to make him play a full contest for what it's worth. Here's what I'm going to say. So first, Austin Simmons is their quarterback 1, obviously. Jackson Dart going to the league. That'll be an interesting transition because they don't have their main guy at quarterback that they were 100% confident in. Not saying Austin isn't good. I'm just saying it'll be a transitional period as well. But Lane Kiffin and his scheme has been talked about a lot. It's even hurt Jackson Dart's draft stock with how much you've talked about it, saying, can Jackson be successful in an offense outside of Lane Kiffin? Did Lane get him to where he was? That has me thinking 2 things. 1, I do want to give credit again to Lane being an offensive genius, right? Your dad, Monty Kiffin, being a defensive genius puts you in a situation where you learn the ins and outs of not only one of the toughest defensive coverages in the Tampa 2, but you learn everything. If you are in a if you understand defensive coverage, I feel like you could draw offensive plays. And that's just being straight up honest. Because if you understand where the defensive holes are and dead coverages and all these different zones on the field, then you can draw a play to break it up. If you have a cover 2 beater, cover 3 beater, cover 4 beater, I feel like it's easy once you understand all sides of the game. The defense is at times the hardest side to understand. And Lane had it from a young age with his father being a defensive genius. That's how I think he's been in the situation to have all of these schemes, the 40 points per game, all this different success. It's coming from that. And I think it'll continue to come. I think Austin Simmons will be an interesting guy. And don't forget about Logan Diggs. Don't forget about him because he was at LSU a few years ago. Obviously, he's had some injuries and he's been sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. But when it's his time, I think he could pop off. Don't forget about LD. Let's talk about Alabama, the man on the screen right now, Ty Simpson. So taking some time to get back in the groove. The Tide. That's expected, though. You lose a tough coach like this. Nick Saban, Louisiana Hall of Fame, one of the best coaches of all time. We can argue about it. There's a lot of people have different opinions, but whatever you feel about Coach, he left an impactful mark on Alabama. And now with them, with Caleb DeBoer and trying to find their wings, it's taking a little bit of time. Not too much time, but a little bit of time. And I think it could still take some time. Depth's going to be an issue, I believe. Mass portal exodus is going to be tough to keep your squad together. Alabama has had depth, and they've had the best recruiting class since pretty much Nick Saban decided to show up to Tuscaloosa. And now they're in a spot where they got to restart the process and go ahead and get some guys back into the room. The biggest question marks in terms of depth, it's the most important. The offensive line, specifically their tackle positions. They're worrying about DB as well. Last year, you saw some injuries in their DB room, and I believe they started freshman DBs, which, Lord, you don't want. If LSU fans know anything about it, it's starting freshman DBs, and you don't want that. But here's the deal. So Ty Simpson, I think he could be a guy. He sat under Milroe for 2 years. He waited his turn. He could have entered the portal. He could have joined the mass portal exodus. He didn't. He stayed tried and true. I like that. I'm a root for him. I think Ty could be a decent quarterback for Alabama, but I don't think Alabama is one of those squads that is an automatic, guaranteed, undefeated national champion contender now. It's very similar to Georgia, and it's way more obvious. Georgia is not as obvious because they still got Kirby. They still got, a chance, all this stuff. But with Nick Saban leaving Alabama, there was a huge moment where things got shaken to their core. Kalen DeBoer, great coach. And I ain't trying to say he's not a great coach. Fantastic coach. They're going to have to figure out those depth issues because depth and the SEC go hand in hand. I'm not going to lie. Let's move out of this. Talk about LSU baseball real quick. Friday got the dub against Bama, 4-3. Saturday lost. Yesterday won. Tough series. LSU made it out, though. Against a tough opponent. Very tough opponent. I believe they were ranked number 15 going into this. Tough series. But the Tigers cut their teeth and got it in. Hey, LSU Bama in baseball, it ain't the same as football. We were talking about that record, that series history, and how Alabama football been killing LSU. Baseball, it don't happen like that. I ain't going to lie. I got an interesting statistic here as well. LSU, 7 College World Series titles, 19 appearances. Alabama, 0 titles, 5 appearances. So, hey, at least you can say you got something over them. A lot of wildness in the SEC in terms of baseball. Arkansas and Tennessee both lose a series at home. Your number 2 and your number 4 teams drop one. And then UGA and Ole Miss both drop one on the road. Number 5 and number 11 teams, look, those rankings, they going to shift bad. And LSU could potentially slide up and take advantage of it. It's going to be interesting. Next game, Tuesday versus Northwestern State at home tomorrow. This weekend, big series. Tennessee comes to the box. Look, if you ain't make a trip yet, if you didn't have the Alex box yet, this is your time to do it. This is the series to do it. Go tell Tony V get out of Baton Rouge. Hopefully they can right their wrongs from last season. All right, last segment of the show. Everybody spam the like button. Ooh, last segment of the show. We celebrating. Saints mock draft. I want to poke some fun. I want to just talk about it. I ain't going to get your hopes up because, quite frankly, that's what the point of this segment is. I'm going to try to tamper and just taper some expectations down. Everybody settle down. I do think Shedeur Sanders to New Orleans is one of the best opportunities that they have in this draft. Now, will it happen? Is an entirely different question. Focus seems to be right now on just getting the best offensive player on the board at the time with who's there. Is it going to be Shedeur? Is it going to be this? Whatever question may be answered late. But I want to talk about just the curveball aspect that New Orleans brings to the table, right? Every Saints fan has a visualization of how they want this draft to go, how they want any draft to go. And a lot of Saints fans, unfortunately, get that visualization shattered, shit on, stepped, whatever you want to say. It gets murked. And I'm hoping this one doesn't turn into the same situation. The last time the Saints drafted a quarterback, I didn't believe this. I saw this. I thought it was fake. I had to go look it up. The last time was 1971 when they drafted Archie Manning. The last time the Saints have used a first-round pick on a quarterback. That made me scratch my head for like 5 damn minutes. What? How are you building an NFL team and you never once consider, hey, let's go get a quarterback in the first round? Yeah, you got Drew Brees for, I'd say, damn near 20 years. And that's okay. I'll give you an excuse there. It's been a good time after. And then even at the end of his career, he had a couple of opportunities to draft some hitters who, by the way, are both MVPs of the NFL in Patrick and Lamar. But that's besides the point. I looked at the last 12 first-round picks for the Saints. 9 of the 12 were either offensive linemen or defensive linemen. Matter of fact, the other 3, I said 12 picks, right? 9 of the 12. The other 3, Marshawn Lattimore, good job, but he's gone. Stephon Anthony, gone. And then the other one, Chris Olave, and he's rumored to be gone. So out of the 12 first-rounders you've had, the 3 that weren't even in the trenches, gone, about to be gone. And I'm not saying that the draft process is horrible, but it needs work. It needs a lot of work because you're in a situation now, you don't got nothing to show for it, obviously, because of the way that the team has been going, the holes, all these cap problems. Yeah, if you draft a young guy, you can figure some of that out. But you need a fresh pick to put this staff in a new breath of air. Kellen Moore era needs to start with a positive impact, right? And it has to start with this draft because if you piss a lot of people off with this draft, oh my God, that vibe is going to stay around New Orleans for the entire just existence of the Saints. And then I got a question for you as well. Let's say that Shedeur gets drafted because here's my honest take. My honest objective take is I don't think Shedeur Sanders makes it to pick 9. That's just me. I don't think he's a second quarterback off the board, second best quarterback prospect. I feel like someone could potentially trade up. If it doesn't happen, that's the best case scenario for New Orleans because now you don't got to do anything. But if Shedeur goes, do not take Jackson Dart at number 9. There's no way. I don't think you don't have to do it. You could trade back, get a potential another pick later. They're obviously looking around for a second rounder per Adam Schefter. But if Shedeur gets taken before you're on the clock at 9, do not reach. Don't reach. If you got an opportunity to draft a stud, I feel like just take it. But don't do the Jackson Dart thing. Don't do that. That's just my opinion on it. You can get him later. That's a wild reach. I'm worried that Shedeur is not going to be there at pick 9. He could be, but I'm worried. We were literally talking about him potentially being the first pick like 2 months ago. And a lot has changed. And obviously, I think Cam Ward's a better prospect. And we've talked about it a million times, but it's just wild. We're just going to pretend he's going to slide damn near out the top 10 now. It'll be interesting. It could happen, though. You never know. The draft is wild. And the last question I got, is this even too far gone? The Saints, I feel like, do they have to draft a quarterback? Do they fracture the relationship with Derek Carr? What's that going to turn into? You hear all these rumors and murmurs going around that he's not really hurt. He's just trying not to be a bridge quarterback and all these things. You got a lot of questions to ask as a Saints fan, a lot of them. 3 of them. 1, is Shedeur going to be there? 2, do we even get a quarterback if he's not there? And where do you get him? And then 3, do you even need one? Is Derek Carr going to be disgruntled all year, and is this project over with? A lot of fans are going to hope and plead and cross their fingers for yes. There's a lot of other aspects to be kept in mind as well. Bust down my AP perfect time. I don't know. I think it could be a good situation, but you're just going to have to, it's going to all have to work out and fall in your lap. I'm hoping Kellen Moore can start his tenure with the Saints very positively and impact people and get this, organization on the right step. But easier said than done. NFL draft starts Thursday. It'll be wild. We'll be breaking it down Wednesday, talking about the LSU prospects that could potentially be picked. Might do some more Saints coverage as well. But that's been all for today. Appreciate everybody for tuning into the show. Please, on your way out, hit that thumbs up. Means a lot. Hit that subscribe button. We're live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. This has been the Verdant Verdict, where we bring you sports talk on the go. I'm your guy, Jacob Verdant. Y'all enjoy your day. Yeah, it's Monday, but we're going to have a good one.